So, Ansley, how are you today?
I did pretty good, Dan. How did you do today?
I'm, good. Also, busy day here and there, but and rainy, and wet. But that happens. Spring, right? So,
Yeah, I mean, that's fair.
yeah, yeah. So, welcome to the show. It is so amazing and awesome and cool and badass and epic. I mean, I can go all night, but to have you here. So, thank you so much for being here. Now starting with the whole interview. Now, tell me how your acting career started.
So, that's an interesting question. I guess it's not that interesting. I'm from Reno, Nevada, and there's not a whole lot to do acting-wise there. So,
Yeah.
in freshman year of high school, I think I was actually in a theater class when this happened, but my friend at the time, she came in, hi Michelle, she came in and she was like, hey, like I'm auditioning for this play, would you maybe want to do it? And I was like, yeah, give me that info. And so I auditioned for the play and I booked this really, really, really small part. And then from there, I was just like, you know what? I could see myself doing this for forever. So from freshman year to the end of senior year of high school, I was consistently always in a show or doing something or, just staying busy. But, theater acting and film acting are very different. So now we're in LA and we're making it happen there. So it's certainly interesting, but yeah.
So cool. And what were some of the challenges that you had when you were recently started with your acting career?
Well, it's an incredibly hard business to break into. It's certainly one of those things that if you don't know a whole lot of people when you break into it, you have to work really hard to get into it. So I guess there's the challenges of like navigating a world that you come into and it's a completely different language. Like what the fuck is the union and what is SAG and how do you get into those and why do I need to get into those and what's the difference between a manager and an agent? And if I, have skill and do good self-tapes, why do I not book? And so it's like, it's a lot of just like, you're constantly learning and you're constantly trying. So it's certainly a hard little career to break into, but if you stick with it, it's impossible not to do it. So might as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. Starting from the bottom, now we're here, right?
No, actually, yeah. It's really funny though, because now like living in LA, you meet all these amazing people and you have all these amazing friends. And it's like you're in class with people that have, booked like series recurring roles or feature films, and they're just in class with you casually. It's certainly interesting because you're surrounded by very successful people all the time, and you just are like, cool, I guess I'll just hang out around you guys. That's totally awesome. So.
I love it. That is so cool. And starting with your career on theater. So you were in plays such as Comedy of Errors, To Kill a Mockingbird, The Winter's Tale. But tell me, how you usually prepare before going on stage? Do you have let's say like a ritual or a thing that you always do in order to kind of set your mind and to perform basically?
I don't really have. I haven't done theater, at least live theater, in a minute because my senior year of college was online, and so we didn't get to perform Winter's Tale in person. We had to do it online. So it was basically like filming an entire Shakespeare play, which was very interesting. But when it comes down to it, I just think like getting into hair and makeup, I think that's every performer's time to really like sink into whatever the character is. If I have an accent, I'll do the accent the entire time beforehand, just because you don't want to confuse anybody or yourself. But just like go over your lines in the mirror and you just, there's always like pre-show rituals too of like jumping up and down or touching the ground and spinning over your right shoulder. Like there's weird things. Theater kids are fucking weird. So, it just depends on whatever feels right for you. But I haven't done a theater in a minute. So maybe my routines have changed. Okay. Maybe that's something. Yeah.
And from all of your different performances on theater so far, what are some of your favorite ones? And what advice could you give to those who are just recently started on theater?
Ooh, favorite roles. I really love Shakespeare, which isn't something that I saw happening. Because the first Shakespeare play I did, I was 16, and it was Much Ado About Nothing, and I played Hero. But it's just like, I love Shakespeare in general because it's such an interesting language to break into, because you read it for the first time and you're like, what the God is this? What are they even saying? And you're reading like No Fear Shakespeare, and like all these things to try and translate it. But I loved being Paulina for Winter's Tale. It was completely online, but she's such a badass. Like, it's so hard not to love her, and she's just bold and fiery and just everything I want to be. And so it was really cool to get to portray her, especially senior year. And as for like advice, I don't know. It's certainly interesting because in Reno, it was a bit of a smaller market. So everybody knows when auditions are coming up for certain things, and everybody knows the directors for certain things. And so in LA, it's like there's new plays casting all the time. So it's just, if you want to get into theater, just get into theater. There's so many avenues and opportunities. You can start reading plays. That's a big one because you need to know source material before you go into it blind. It's very helpful to know what you're doing. Start picking monologues that work for you. Start running over scenes. Start learning dialects. Start learning like all these fun, odd little things that you think won't be important, but they will be. And just like, you can't be afraid of it. Everyone feels stupid up there. There's not a single person who doesn't. The goal is to make it look like you don't feel stupid. And if you can do that convincingly, then congrats. You're probably doing pretty well. So, just stick with it. Do what feels right.
Yeah. Yeah, there you go. I like it. And talking about Shakespeare, I mean, it is so interesting, right? That because back in high school, I remember they introduced us Shakespeare, and I hated it. I hated it because it was just weird, and I just didn't understand anything. And it's so interesting. And I had like this conversation the other day with this awesome, talented actress, Alexandra Wright, that we were talking about this, and it was so interesting, the fact that the way that they teach you.
Alex Wright, she was my teacher.
Oh, there you go. I mean, she's awesome. And we were talking about this, and it was so interesting because the way that they teach it is super wrong, because they're like, okay, this is Shakespeare, chug it up, and good luck, and that's it. And you're like, what the fuck is this? So it is so interesting.
Yeah, I think that's one of my favorite things about it, though, is that it's really odd to like understand. I never had Alex for Shakespeare. I had Alex for like on-camera class my senior year of college, and she was just the fucking best. I mean, she's just so remarkable, and just like anyone's lucky to train under her or know her. And so awesome that you got to talk to her about that, because if there's one woman I know who loves Shakespeare more than anybody else, it's Alexandra fucking Ruth Wright. So rock on to her.
Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. She was on, I think, on season 1. I think she was on season 1 it was just like very recent when I started doing this. And it was so cool the way that she was explaining Shakespeare, that it was totally understandable. And I was like, okay, now it makes a lot of sense that when they told me back in high school, and it makes a lot of sense now. So
Did you have to read Romeo and Juliet in high school? Was that the one they made you do?
They were, but since I was the worst actor in the whole world, they were like, yeah, you want to be just backstage? And I was like, can I get extra credits for that? And they were like, yeah, you will get extra credits. I was like, yes, I'm going to get extra credits for that. But I did once in a play, though, but just one. And I just had like one line, and I messed it up. And that was my moment in which I would say my debut and my retirement from acting, and that was it. So.
No, you can't quit. Everybody messes up. I've forgotten lines on stage. I've fucked up lines in live takes. It's okay. It happens. You just can't give up.
Oh yeah. But funny enough, that performance was pretty epic, because my line was so if I remember, it was for high school, yes, and it was for this play in which like the born of baby Jesus and all of that. So my role was just to say, and he is born, and that was it. I just had to say that, and that was basically it. So I went in the middle of stage, and I forgot that very small line, and I just raised my arms and say, here it is, and I just stood up like frozen, because I didn't know what else to say, and everybody just started laughing, and it turned out that it was a success. Everybody loved it, and of course the director of the play hated me he hated me a lot, but everybody loved it. And at the end, the director was like, what the fuck you did? And I was like, you listen to these people? That was because of me. Don't forget that. So that was like the moment which I said, you know what, probably acting, I should, maybe later though, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, there was this one time when I was really young, and I had to sing this song for a funeral. It was really interesting. And I got up there, and I was going to sing this song, and I looked out at the audience. I think it was like 8 or 9. I looked out at the whole, like, congregation in the church, and I literally into the microphone said, "Mom, come get me." And so I ruined the funeral, which is okay, it builds character.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it is what it is, right? I mean,
Exactly.
we go and yeah, and you know, also for that play, I remember that we were having like this costumes, but mine was super big because the guy who's gonna play that part got sick, and he was huge, and so I got to play it. So his costume was huge, and I remember that when I start to move backwards, you know, when I step back, I just basically step on that rope, and just went to the ground, and yeah, it was horrible. But I mean, now that I watch it, because there's a video actually on that one. When I watched it like 2 years ago with some friends of mine from high school, we were just laughing, and we were like, man, that was so cool. Wish I could do it again.
Oh yeah. See, it's always awful in the moment, but like looking back on it, it's so much more fun. Like
Oh yeah, totally. And like, tell me, like, how you usually prepare a character. I mean, I understand, of course, it depends on the role, right? But what usually sets you up into this process in which you are creating a character? So.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously the first step is to read the whole script, everything. Doesn't matter what it is, movie, TV, play, you've got to read all of it because there's very, very relevant information regarding the journey of said character and at what point it is and why you have to do certain things at certain times. But like, even if you have like a small character, it's very necessary to have certain details planned out so you're not going into it with a blank slate, because if you're not specific in your thinking, then no one's going to believe you. So you have to know what you're doing, why you're doing it, what the reason is for you doing it. And I had classes recently with this amazing teacher, and the three things that he told you to really focus on was like the relevant history, the current situation, and your future, like what you're hoping for in the future. And when you think about like, okay, who am I as I walk into this scene, and then how has that shaped me for this moment? You get there and you're like, okay, cool, great, I know who I am to get here. And then you have to be like, okay, now what do I want in this moment? And then what is the best and worst case scenario? What's the future of this situation? But it's character work. You got to break into it. There's a lot of different studies you can do. I mean, Meisner is an interesting one. I personally, I'll get the script in my grimy little hands and I will pace back and forth with it. I mean, I've memorized Shakespeare in like a day, because you just like, I beat that shit to death. I just walk back and forth, memorizing and repeating and movements and patterns and all those certain things. And then once you get it in your little brain, your silly little head, then you can start to like personalize it. And so I'll get a comfortable read of it, like what I think the character wants, what I think the character wants to say. And then from there, I'll be like, and just kidding, we're going to completely switch it up. So I play a lot with like opposites and what it would look like if my character was no longer, brave and aggressive, but if she was small and destroyed, like what would that look like? So it helps you find a lot of nuances with that type of performance. Yeah,
that is so cool, because I mean, the fact that you are basically like creating a person, but at the same time that person is gonna play on your body, and at the same time it's you who is like playing with it. I mean, it's a process that I find very interesting, because and also like one of the things that I do love about actors is that regardless of how difficult or difficult their personal situation is at that moment, when it's time to perform, they just put that away and just give us the best performance, so we, the audience, could even tell that, oh, this guy looks like this guy's having a bad time, you know? And I find that so interesting. So
no, it's certainly interesting, because like I was always told, when you walk into the theater, you leave your baggage at the door. And then it's funny because you transition into college and they teach you, do not leave it at the door, carry it in with you, and then harness it. So there's a lot of different teaching philosophies. And the only thing you can do is focus on whatever works best for you. If I'm feeling pissy that day, I'm going to use it, because there's something in my character that can harness that energy. It just depends on how you want to do it and what calls for the character. Because at the end of the day, you're telling someone else's story, and you want to be as truthful with it as possible.
Totally. And moving on to your performances on film, you were in Blame, Baba Rich, Remotely Yours, Comedies, Red Tie Massacre. But tell me, like, what do you think is important for storytelling?
So there's also this funny quote that I heard from this teacher, and he goes, "Don't be the writer's bitch," which I think is interesting, because most people, they get a script in front of them, and the only thing they can do is like verbatim read the pauses, or just like do everything that's put out in front of them. And one of my favorite things about film is just, there is freedom with it, and especially if you are in close communication with, you know, the writers and the directors, and you can work in tandem together to make this character not only a more full, well-rounded version of itself, but to also put yourself into it. There's a lot of creative freedom with it, and obviously, like, you booked the role because you were right for the character in some way. So allow yourself to get creative, allow yourself to play with it, because if you get stagnant and you get boring, that's boring. Nobody wants to watch boring. You got to be uncomfortable. So
totally. And you can tell sometimes, right? Either on a film or play, whenever like the character just focus on the line and it sounds generic and you just don't care, and you're like, you know, like there's something missing there. So I do think that I mean, at least for example, when I watch a movie or a play, I want to have like something that I can relate to the character. You know, like something that I can be like, or at least say that I can totally see that guy walking down the street, or even like chatting while we're waiting for the bus or something like that, you know?
Yeah, it's really interesting to try to watch things now, because like I don't know, I always think about, oh, how could you have said that different or done this different or blah 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 blah. So, you know, it's certainly interesting.
Yeah. And what do you like the most about being on a film set? And what's the number one thing that you always bring with you when you have to go shoot a film?
I always bring, number one, my own eyebrow stuff, because I don't trust anyone with my stupid little brows, because nobody does them right but me, so I'm doing them. I also always bring deodorant, because I be getting nervous and I sweat, so I absolutely need something to help me out. Granted, there's like hair and makeup teams usually that are like, let me help you with all these things, but never forget a script, I never forget a book. I always bring a jacket because it could get cold. It's just like, for me, when you're on a set, I want to be comfortable when I'm not shooting, and I want to be able to get myself to a great spot. So things that make me feel cozy or happy or whatever I need, really, because at the end of the day, I'm the one that has to get in front of that stupid little camera and do all these lines and make this character believable, and I better be in a good headspace in order to maybe do that.
Yeah.
But I like, it's so different, because I like with theater how it changes every single night with the audience participation and what that looks like. But with film, I like that it's immortalized. You could watch it forever. You know, for theater, it gets nostalgic because you look back on your performance and you're like, oh, I remember when I did that, or I remember when I did this, or whatever. But with film, there's tangible aspects of you throughout each part in your career that you can look back on and you can reminisce on, and you can be like, oh, I've grown so much since this, or I've done so much since this. And I don't know, I'm a big like memory hoarder, so for me, having something tangible is very important and helpful. So
yeah, absolutely. And I also think, for example, with theater, the fact that, as you mentioned, that you can that you have like new audience, it gets totally like that first performing again, right? And at the same time, I think that the vibe, right, that once you finish a play, you get all this vibe like all hyped up, you know, and with the film, it's true. At the end, you can find it everywhere at some point. So yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean, when it comes down to, I love them both so much. But I stick with film mainly because obviously I don't have a whole lot of opportunity to do theater. But there's literally nothing that compares to opening night in a theater. So it's like you win some, you lose some.
Absolutely. Yeah. And like, how was that transition for you? You know, for going from theater to go on film? Because, for example, with some of the actors that I interviewed, one of them told me once that first performing on TV was hilarious because, you know, she was doing like all the manners and moving, all dramatic, and like, like the director was like, what the hell are you doing? You know, you just,
she's like,
you need to relax, you know, and like she was screaming, you know, and all of that, and like having like that transition for her at first was difficult, but later on, I mean, of course, that she got it. But for you, like, how was that change?
So okay, it is different for every single actor. I felt that I naturally really sat into film. There's some scenes I still have to work on stillness a lot, because the most beautiful thing about, I feel like, really intimate shots is that you're stuck on the actor's eyes and you can't go anywhere else, and you're just watching and you're sucked in and you're like, what the fuck's happening? And so for me, it's because I have a very big personality. I'm very loud, I'm very dramatic, I'm very all over the place. I'm born to entertain. And so when you do it for so many years on stage, I don't know, I think I was excited to really bring it in and see what it felt like to express everything internally instead of letting everyone else see it right off the bat. There's a certain level of, you have to trust yourself with this, because I could show you exactly what I'm feeling and exactly what I want immediately, but that's not fun. I want you to figure it out yourself through me internalizing it and showing it to you that way. So it's definitely hard to reel it in. I have done okay with it, I feel like.
I love it. I love it. Now, if you could describe a movie in which all of the characters you have played at the moment will gather for a party, tell me what will be the name of that film?
A journalist, a murderer, and the murderee walk into a bar. That's all I can think of. I usually play like journalists or like psycho killers or the person that gets killed. I don't have a whole lot to draw from, honestly. So
that would be interesting. That would be kind of interesting,
It would certainly be something. I feel like it would be a murder mystery, if anything, but
There you go. I love it. Yeah. And if you could describe your career, but now on a movie, TV show, book, play, even a musical, why not? What would be the title of
it? I don't want to think too long on this because I feel like I put too much thought into it and it strips away the comedy. I don't know what I'd call it a book, and it would probably be Running from Your Roots, and I just don't know why. I just feel like
it.
Yeah, you gotta distance yourself from all previous little aspects of what you thought life would look like and what you were hoping for and the roles you thought you played. It's just like you have to literally like uproot yourself from a lot of different pieces of yourself in order to be, I feel like, good. I don't know if that makes any sense, but Running from Your Roots is something I would probably go with. I don't know.
There you go. Yeah, who knows? Maybe at some point you will get a book and you got a title already here.
Right. Why don't I just write a book right now? Let's just do it.
Sounds like a plan. I love it. Now, what about describing your career on a drink?
Oh, Jesus Christ. Definitely an adios motherfucker. Because that's just, like, you walk into a bar and you're like, give me an AMF. And they're like, are you sure you want that? And you're like, give me the AMF. And so you're drinking it and you're chugging it and you're like, suddenly everything is crazy and I don't know what's happening, but I'm here for the ride. That's exactly how I would describe my life career right now, because it's just kind of it's chaotic, it's fun, it's confusing, it's a little scary, but it's nice. It's blue.
Yeah.
It had to have a color and be blue. So yeah, definitely an AMF.
Yeah, I like that. I like it. I'm the type of people that with drinks, I like what they're like with colors. When it's like having like this weird color, I get like so curious, like I want to taste that. And even if they say, dude, you're gonna die, I'm like, I don't care, take my phone,
You're like, it was green. What was I supposed to do? Not drink it? I felt that. No, but I'm not a big cocktail drinker, unfortunately. I really like Chardonnay, and that's pretty much it.
Okay. What about shots?
Here's the thing, I can't shoot. I'm such a baby back bitch. It's honestly embarrassing. Like I'll try and I can do it, but do I enjoy it? Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Back in college, I tried this shot that I promised myself that if I do it again, has to be like for a special occasion. So that shot is mezcal with tabasco.
Oh, fun.
Yeah.
I would not do that.
No, especially if you haven't eaten anything all day, it's gonna blow your stomach, and you're gonna literally feel how your stomach is like blowing up because
I can feel it right now through the screen. The Tabasco is just not a great
idea.
No,
it's not a good thing. No, don't do it.
It's okay. You live and you learn. You learn.
Oh yeah. Now, tell me, like, what motivates you? We all have those days in which we want to quit. We think we just think that we're not good enough. We start to compare ourselves with others, and getting inside into all of these toxic thoughts is super easy, right? But like, what gets you out of it? What just pulls you out of it for you to continue just living and enjoying the thing that you love the most?
Well, that's okay. So it's funny that you asked this question. I was on TikTok, I think a few days ago, and I saw this thing about considering your life as if like you were a popcorn kernel, and you're a popcorn kernel in a pot with a bunch of other popcorn kernels, and all of these other kernels are popping before you do, and you're like, fuck, like it's never gonna happen. I'm just like a stud, nothing's ever gonna work, and then eventually your kernel will pop, And I thought, like, I'm not one for really cheesy metaphors because I'm not, but I was like, that's a really good way of visualizing it. Because you look at it and you just know that every little kernel there is eventually going to be fine, but some blossom later. And so it's interesting because, you know, you graduate with an entire class of actors, and some people are booking and some people are auditioning way more than others. And it is hard. It's extremely hard to not compare yourself to them. But Alexandra Wright, she always says that acting is a gift of compassion and generosity. And the best thing you can do with it is remember that it's not about you, and it's never been about you. It's about the story. And so when I find myself getting into these weird ruts where I'm like, I'm never going to make it, I'm not good enough, it's just stupid. Do you know what I mean? Like, I am not here to pity myself or to make myself the main plot of any story. I am here to be a storyteller and to lend myself to the story. And at the end of the day, I got into this because I fell in love with reading. I fell in love with storytelling, and that's what I want to do for the rest of my life. I don't know what else I would do. I'd be an English teacher maybe, but that still involves stories. It doesn't matter what it looks like to me. It just matters that you're telling these engaging stories, whether they're heartbreaking or awful or disgusting or terrifying or just like downright bad. Like, you're still telling a story and someone's going to watch it. So, I mean, it's very hard to stay motivated, but at the end of the day, there is no other alternative because nobody is going to root for you harder than you will root for you. So I have to tell myself, like, do this for you, because if you quit now, you are never going to forgive yourself. Give it time. It will all work out, because it always does. So that's it.
Yeah. Preach on that. Yeah. And it's so interesting that how, like, you will see now this new generation, right, in which they just quit like so easy, you know, and I do think it is also because of the fact that they're selling them like this fake idea that if you wanna that you need to search for fame, you know, you need to be a celebrity, and you know, like all of that. If you don't do that, then you're not gonna be no one. And you got all the generation of kids in which they get so frustrated because they just don't because it is hard, you know. And even though they don't get it that it doesn't matter if you're not a celebrity. I mean, at the end of the day, if you do what you love, you know. Yeah,
exactly. And Alex also has this amazing quote where it's like, a lot of the world will stop you from becoming famous, but nobody can stop you from acting. And so if you core yourself in these values that all you want to do is to tell stories, and it doesn't matter what capacity, you can find creativity and inspiration and love and joy and growth everywhere. It may not look exactly how you thought it would, but nothing ever fucking does. So like I've totally assumed that by this age I'd already be like a movie star and like doing all this shit, and it's like, great, I just got an apartment where I have my own room and I have a full-time job and I can pay my car insurance, and those are wins for me. And so it's like rough because your life will never look like what you thought it would, but at the end of the day, what are you going to do except keep going? Because otherwise it's just boring.
I do believe that if you live without a purpose, you know, what's the point of it?
Yeah, and like, it's like you get so far into pursuing this and wanting to do this, and there's around every corner there's someone. I mean, always I have family members that are like, are you sure? I don't want you to be like too disappointed. Like, are you sure this is what you really want to do with your life?
Yeah.
And it's like, well, yeah, dude. I also don't have a backup plan. Also, like, what is the alternative? To quit and go home to Reno? What are we gonna do in Reno? Be a librarian? Boring. Like, you just have to stick it out because you chose this career for a reason. No one thinks it's going to be easy. It's never easy. You know that going into it. Actors are some of the fucking strongest people I know. You have to literally use your own emotions every single day, either against you or for you. Or it's mental warfare, but it's also therapy.
Yeah,
you know, it's fun.
Yeah, and I actually find it interesting because for some of the people that I interview, they just love to play the villains, you know, because they can release all of this tension and all of this anger that they have throughout the week, you know. And they can just be like the meanest dick in the room at the moment. But since you're the villain, everybody is expecting for you to do that, so it's fine if you can do whatever you want, and it's just amazing.
Oh yeah, any day that I'm having, like, it's so good to have just like scenes and monologues in your little back pocket, because if you're like, I need to feel something, you don't even have to be doing it for an audition or for a class. You can set up a ring light, you can do a self-tape, and you can have a reader, and you can just get it out. Or you can journal as a character That's one of my favorite things about when I was learning. They were like, journal as this character. And I was like, oh, word? For real? Okay, I guess I'll give it a try. It's weird, but it's definitely worth it. It's super fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And my last question here is, what can we expect from you in the future?
Hopefully good things.
Of course.
It's interesting because the future is so vast and broad that I'm gonna say, well, okay, I'm shooting a short film in New Mexico this summer, so you can look forward to that. That is something that will be happening, which is exciting. And then after that, hopefully I just book something super crazy fucking cool, and I can just be in all your faces on like Hulu or something. I don't know. I'm kidding. But really, what I want and what I want everyone to want is I want to be in a book to movie adaptation more than life, because it was my love of reading that got me into this craft, and it is the reason I want to stay in it. I want to be a protagonist from a book, ripped off the page and dropped onto the screen. And I want to read the books and give it the most accurate presentation of a character that this author had in mind. I want to be a book character. That's what I want for my career. Once I do that, all hands are off. I've done it. I can go home and quit. That's all I want.
There you go.
Yeah.
I love it. And you know what? I'm super sure that's gonna happen. The reason is, well, because you are true by heart. You do the thing that makes you happy. And as simple as it might sound, I do know people that that it takes decades for them to realize that they want to do something that it actually makes you happy. I do, especially like with my generation. The fact that that if you want to become an actor, musician, like all related to arts, it was kind of they were telling you like, no, you need to just get to college, get a degree in business or whatever, then find a job in a company, work there for the rest of your life, and then when you're 60, 70, you retire, and that's it. And I was and with my family, actually, I got this argument at some point, because I was like, what's the point? And yeah, I'm gonna be 70 one day, and I did that. But that sucked, because I'm just gonna be like, what the hell did I did? I wasted all of my life in a place that at the end of the day, they don't care about me. At some point, that place, whenever they think that I'm not hot enough, they're gonna basically put me out, put someone younger and better, and problem solve. And like all of that, and all of those kind of things got me thinking like why not doing something that makes you happy, regardless of how stupid or how ridiculous it might be for some people. I mean, at the end of the day, it's your life, and I do believe also that if you want to achieve your dreams, you're gonna probably disappoint some people and even close ones. But at the end of the day, it's your life. So,
and that's what when I think about it, would I be comfortable getting to the end of my life and being like, thank God I lived for other people my entire life?
Yeah.
One of the best things that I've learned to do, and it's so hard because it's ingrained in you from a young age, to be selfless and be so considerate about everyone else all the time. The best thing I've learned to do in my early 20s is be so fucking selfish with my time and with what I want, and with saying no and with saying yes to things, and saying, I want this. I'm allowed to want this. I'm allowed to be, truthful with my emotions. Yeah. It's crazy. It is crazy once you start giving yourself that space to actually exist as a human for yourself and what you want instead of for other people, how much it changes. I am a completely different person than who I even was a year ago, and it's all because I gave myself permission to be sad when I needed to be, and to be fucking angry when I needed to be, and to be miserable and be alone and be selfish. And you have to go through all of those things in order to realize what you want. And once you do that, it's like so many little doors open up.
Yeah.
Oh, it's delightful.
Yeah, but it is true. I mean, like 2 years ago, I used to work in this company, and I was just like this corporal guy, right? And got into an argument with my supervisor. They fired me. I sued them, and after working there for 3 years, that got me thinking, like, so I worked there for 3 years. I wasted my time and part of my life there. And at the end of the day, regardless of what I did and all the trophies and recognitions and all of that, and and saying like, oh, employee of the week and all of that shit. I mean, at the end of the day, when they fired me, I just felt horrible, because I was like, what's next? And like having this constant conversation with myself to be like, I mean, is this really life? Like, is this really how it should be? That you just work in a place, as I was saying before, and then one day they kick you out, and then like, personally to me, I mean, maybe for some people that's their dream, that's fine, but at least to me, that was just boring because I was like, what's the point of it? You know, I mean, if that is like why we came to this world, to just be average, you know, to just be one number more, what's the point of it? You know, I do think that you are wasting like so much things. And I remember that one day I saw this quote in which they were saying that the richest place in the world are graveyard. The reason why is because over there they were films that were never played, you know, scripts, music, plays, you know, like new inventions, new stuff, like all of that thing. And that got me thinking, like, it is true. And I also saw another quote in which they were saying that most people die usually on Mondays. And I was like, that is awful. The reason is because like that emotion that you are working for the weekend, and then you realize Sunday's off, and then Monday you need to go back to work, and you don't like it. You just feel horrible. And they were saying that thing that usually people die on Mondays, and that was like so scary. But yeah, I do believe that at the end, I mean, if everybody should have the right to live their life the way they just fucking want, you know. So.
Yeah, and if there's one piece of advice I have remaining, it is just to be selfish and allow yourself to be selfish, because the people who get upset with you for being selfish don't understand that you are allowed to have boundaries and pursue what you want, do what you want, fight for what you want. If it is affecting literally nobody else but you, there is not a single thing anyone else can say about it. And so be selfish, pursue what you want, because it's your life, and who else is going to do it for you? Like, that's embarrassing. Stick to your gut. Do what makes you feel better. Stick to that.
I love it, Ansley. I mean, what can I say besides that you're a badass here? I mean, you're like super badass. Also, I mean, yeah, absolutely. I mean, the fact that you're doing it what you love, and fuck the rest, you just like it and that's it. That is super awesome. That is inspiring as well. And I mean, I'm super sure that at some point we're gonna see you everywhere. I mean, from continent to continent. Even an action figure, human.
Fuck yeah, why not? Let's just do it. Yeah,
that would be cool. Yeah, that would be cool. And I mean, yeah, that is so cool. Your career is epic and badass. It's gonna grow. Hear me on that. And also, I want to thank those who are watching this right now. Thank you so much for watching. If you're watching this later, either here on Instagram or on YouTube or listening on Spotify or Apple Podcast, make sure that you follow Ansley. If you already do, fantastic. What we're going to do now is that we're going to put hashtag Team Ansley, and we're going to make her viral. Make sure everybody knows about this amazing, talented actress. And before I send you off, I need to send you off, you know, with an epic send-off. So
excellent.
Here we go. Hey. Oh.
Please, it's too much. Okay.
And as we get, thank you so much. Keep having an amazing evening, an amazing upcoming weekend. Keep killing it, keep being awesome, and I'll see you the next one.
Thank you so much, Dan. It was so much fun chatting with you today.
All right, have a good one. Okay, thank you.
Bye.